Summer's on, the corn's growing like crazy, and we're talking about Craftsman kits, glue, zip texturing, cameras.
Model Railroads and Structures Show is brought to you by Helicon Focus. Helicon Focus makes photo stacking easy, while making post-editing just plain simple. Get your 20% off a lifetime membership by going to modelersguild.com/HF. And we thank Helicon Focus for their support of the Model Railroads and Structures.
And by And Model. And Model has been making model railroad electronics since 2007, and with their affiliation with Pico and their Smart Switch, you can find them in Europe and in North America. Smart Switch switches your switches and animates your models.
In this episode, we kind of mixed some segments up a bit. So some of you are going to notice that a segment was put into this episode. And the only reason I did that was because of lightning. My laptop got fried by lightning. Well, it's not fried, it works. But there's some little component in the electrical area that kind of shuts everything down if I plug in the power. So it's kind of down to the last bits of battery before I have to take it to the shop and spend money on it. I don't want to do that. So we're getting in Terrance's segment today, and that's important because the Model Railroad Radio contest, the critter contest, is ending today. So sorry, Terry. I had plans to get it all in there, and summer's getting into the mix. So the show's also going to be released bi-monthly now. And it might not even be the show. Like the show might be released monthly, but I think I'm gonna start putting out interviews on the other weeks. So there's always going to be content coming out. I'm just going to try my best to slow it down because I put out too much for people to consume. Maybe if more cord cutters come to YouTube, we'll be able to get those people who want to watch lots of content. Anyways, so let's listen in on what we talked about with the boys.
Hello, and welcome to the Model Railroads and Structures Show. We are a model railroads and structures based show. That kind of means that we're modelers. We build model railroads, and we're really not the model trains and operators show. But maybe in the future we'll do that if we can get it hacked out on Hangouts here. You never know. Maybe with Ed's new camera, he'll be able to do an operating session for us. I don't know.
You always get the last piece of bacon.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I was about to mute this out. The last piece of bacon. Eating this on camera wouldn't... I know it's a raw show, but we're going to put this down for a second. The last piece. That's my boy. I was almost worried that was going to have to be cut out of the show. Anyways, so I'm going to get over here and get some people onto the show because everything that's going to be onto the produced show is basically put together, and this little round table here is probably going to be pretty short today. Hello, Ed, and hello, Peter. How you guys doing?
How you doing?
I'm doing great. I had a troll-free week for the most part.
Oh, that's great.
Yee!
Got all the haters weeded out, huh?
They just know to keep into the bush.
That's what trolls do.
Yeah, heads down in the grass, boys. Keep the heads down. So yeah, any modeling done this week, Peter?
No. I'm working on a diorama for that hardware store I got from Jimmy Simmons.
Oh wow!
And taking a break from the Fremo bakery complex to do this, so that's kind of been occupying my time. But beyond that, nothing too exciting.
Yeah, this Jimmy Simmons fellow. I saw what's his name? Sam Sizdek, I think his name is. He built one of Jimmy's kits and used the chalk mortar technique that he has written on his website, on Jimmy's website. And
How'd it turn out?
I haven't tried it, but Sam's Sam's try of it worked great. So I'm totally going to be trying it on these Imagine That kits. They don't have.
He seems to really like those Bragdon's powders. I tried one of his techniques, blending it with alcohol, the powder with alcohol, and using that to paint the brick, and it turned out really good. I was impressed.
When you paint the brick with, it's basically a paste, I guess, or a loose paste.
Basically.
Right? How do you get it off the brick faces? Is it a big issue of getting it off the brick faces?
What I did is I let it dry, and then I used a very fine sanding board, like something like this, but very, very fine, almost feels like paper. And I lightly went over the top to reveal the facings. And I got a pretty good effect, and it gave it some texture. So it was new ground for me, and I liked what I saw.
So when you put the emery paper, I guess it would be, over the brick, you really didn't hit it hard or long enough to take off the paint you put on the brick. It's just to get off the mortar.
Right. Yeah. When you're doing, you mix up a separate paste. Almost like I think I use an actual Bragdon's mortar color, just kind of a white paste. And when I sort of spatulaed that over the mortar lines, and then I used that technique to remove it from the brick facings, and it turned out really really good. When you do the actual brick, you want the mortar more pasty. When you actually do the brick color first, you want that more fluid, so you add more alcohol.
Oh, I see. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
I've heard a bunch of different techniques, and it goes, right across the board. And, sometimes I don't like you pull out. To give an example, I paint, rust oxide for my bricks, and then once you try to add mortar to it, it tones down the red in the bricks, but sometimes it tones it down a little bit too much. So I started going real light with the mortar, not to really get mortar lines, but to tone it down a bit. Like the one thing I really worry about is toning it down too much, So, yeah, that'll be a technique I try for sure on this building, for sure.
I get nervous with new techniques too when you go outside of what's worked for you for so long. I mean, it makes my palms sweat to just think about it. I've had some disasters.
Test first.
Absolutely.
This building's nice because it's got two, it's a background flat, so there's two wall sections that are about 1.5 inches where I'll test the mortar line. And I'll test it on the side of the model so that if I totally screw it up, I'll be able to hide that in the alley.
Yeah. Yeah, you have much more wisdom than I do. I went into it thinking, oh, this is going to work great, and disaster.
Hey, every mistake I've ever done had components of Murphy's Law involved, and modeling is not perfecting your techniques. It's perfecting the way to get out of trouble.
It's a great point.
Modeling is definitely a series of disasters and how you fix them. For everybody, even the best of modelers. I'm not the best. I'm not even close to the best. But even the self-proclaimed experts and celebrities and all those people have a ton of mistakes that they just know how to get themselves out of trouble.
Absolutely. I'll tell you something else that both you and Ed have inspired me to do is to really drill down. I always thought I was a pretty detailed modeler until I saw some of your work and Ed's work, especially that picture of the diorama with the truck, which you would swear that's an actual truck parked in front of a building with the detailed hosing and so on behind the truck. That I'm going in deeper, and I ordered some detail parts from Vector Cut, and I've kind of gone into my toolbox because it's amazing. You guys have really gone into a deeper level that I completely took for granted, and it adds so much to structures.
Well, I'd like to add something to that. Here's the model right here, because I might be committing a cardinal sin today, but I'd like you to realize something, though, that's something that Ed has said multiple times, and I like to say, too, is that this kit took about 4 or 5 years to build. And I put it up on a shelf, and it sits and collects dust for about 6 months at a time while, maybe I come up with a new idea, or maybe I just get inspired to do a small part of it, There's no... there's things that I want to do to this model after the show today. I want to put in a hydro pole here and a hydro pole here, and I want to put power to this building and power to this building, And I knew I had to do that, but it was always something that I had to wait till, because, putting your hands over this stuff, wrecking that stuff isn't weathering it.
Absolutely.
So, take your time with detailing models, and that's the trick, is, put the model away for a while and, come back to it.
It's great advice, because you see it with a fresh pair of eyes.
Yeah. I know when I did this model, it took about a week to get it to a stage where it looks like it's at. However, there's little sections of this model where I've spent a few hours just staring at it and coming up with little detail parts and painting them up, and and then all it takes is putting it down. It's all in the planning and the putting together stuff. So yeah, I might sell this kit, this diorama to. There's a couple of things I want to buy to improve the quality of the show. I want to get an external mixer because I run the show off of my laptop. So if I had an external mixer, I could mix audio and stuff, and possibly even video. With a few external parts, so I might, if I could get close to, I don't know, I'd even take half of what it's worth, to buy stuff for the show. I don't know.
It's tough to, that figuring out what the actual value is. It's because to you, you've got a little piece of your soul into that piece.
Yeah.
So how do you come up with a figure? It's tough, and to your point, you end up letting it go for far less than in your heart what it's truly worth.
Yeah, yeah. Like the kit in the box, which to a large portion of the armchair modeler world is worth more in the box than it is built. You know, that's the unfortunate truth. But in the box, this kit, I think I paid $450. I think the kit, when it was released, was probably $395. But you know, it's a highly sought after kit. So and it's only built in a limited quantity, so the price goes up in the box. So, you know, I'd be hard pressed to get $500 off this thing on eBay. You know, get $50 to build it.
You know, what I found, because I probably, this is going back a few years, but I was selling structured kits that I would build on eBay, and it was, I would keep reposting because I wouldn't come down on my price. And then after a while, what you're going to find is you're going to get that collector out there that's going to stumble upon your work, and he or she will keep coming back for more. So when you originally posted, you know, my 2 cents is, don't get disappointed if you don't get a lot of bites. Keep reposting, because you will find that person that has that eye that will connect with your work, and you'll have a great relationship. That's what I found.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. There's a couple of kits around that I've put up a few times, and I have no interest in selling it for less than this kit right here. I have I don't care to say that I have no interest in selling it for anything less than $1,000. You know, it's worth a little bit more than that, maybe even a bit more than a little, but you know, it's got to be at least twice as much as what the box was worth, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, Ed, I heard that you got your camera all fixed up.
Yeah. Got it working.
Are you using that live viewer thing?
Not at the moment. You guys were talking about mortar.
Oh, okay. Go for it.
And I was just going to share the picture that's on the screen. That's an old picture from a year or two ago. More than that. 4 years ago, whatever. This was my coke oven I scratch built. And this is before any mortar. That's by the way, that's the stone there is a Sculpey clay, the oven baked clay.
Okay.
That basically I rolled out into a sheet. I took a piece of pumice and beat on it to make the texture, and that's just acrylics in various colors, and then I just cut it up like you're cutting. And made my own stone. Being the cheap guy I am.
Frugal.
So there's with all the little stone pieces in place, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's my mortar, which is a spackling.
It's already mixed.
Yeah, and this is the lightweight stuff. It's more like Cheese Whiz or something. I mean, I don't know. It's like it's almost like somebody made spackling from styrofoam or something. It's really, you know, light and fluffy.
Oh, okay.
You can kind of see a little bit right there.
Yep.
And so that's just me mortaring the surface.
Okay.
And there we continue on. I just slop it on.
Oh, this is the stressful part.
And then I just take a wet brush and wash the face, and then wipe it off with a piece of cloth, which wipes off the face, leaves it in the grooves, and just a wet brush and a cloth, and you can see it washes completely off the faces. That's how I did it.
So did you seal your acrylic the stonework? Did you seal it with a clear coat of some kind?
No.
You're too much.
Once
Really?
once acrylic dries, it's dried. It's not going to dissolve.
Yeah.
It's acrylic paint. And that's after, and I could have, if I wanted, I could come across with some kind of a stain, darken up the mortar. But the point was that when it's wet with a cloth and just a brush with some water, it washes right off.
Wow.
So.
Ed, have you ever pre-colored it? What if you wanted a different color on the mortar, but you didn't want to color it after it's been installed?
You could do that. I mean, you could mix okay. If you use acrylic, remember acrylic is a plastic, right? So it's kind of it's like if you use acrylic paints when you're using a plaster, it leaves a film. You know what I'm saying? It's a shell. And depending on how much you thin it, it's not. If I were going to tin it, I would probably use something like a powdered temper paint or something. Something that would actually allow you to come back and allow other stains to soak in. But
Have you ever tried painting road markings by hand? Maybe you've tried delicate decals and had them rip apart when you tried to get them straight. Well, fret no more, because my friends at Highways and Byways have exactly what you're looking for. John's easy-to-apply vinyl graphics are perfect for completing your city scene quicker and with less stress.
you were asking about my camera, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let me.
Just to show, I've got that stuff.
I use
temper paint.
I use a powdered brown mostly for all my scenic works, because what I do is I put like a beige. In fact, I can share something here.
This is yellow, and what I got this was from following Joe Fugate's zip texturing. He says to use this stuff for texturing the concrete.
I've got an example showing using this. I love his temper paint for the layout.
Yeah.
I've got an example here in my Styrofoam Rocks tutorial on my website. Anyway, I go through how to make rock. You know, people get all bent out of shape about, oh, how do I make rocks, and how much does it cost, and all this. And it's like, dude, chill out. You know, it's like, this is just some blue styrofoam. This is a styrofoam like you buy at Lowe's.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you can see the real fancy tools I'm using, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm really complicated. I'm making the point about this. I was trying to joking around was, you know, it don't have to be that complicated when you're doing it. I mean, here I'm using a pocket knife, right? And so I end up with that, and that's my stone. And I use some spackle to hide the crevices, and I'll get to the point I was trying to make here in a second. Here I just use some beige latex paint. And there's a tempera. It's just, you sprinkle it on with like a little sifter, right? Spray some water, and it washes it down into the grooves and all the cracks. And then some AI wash, and what you end up with that quickly is, and you were talking about your zip texture. That's what that is. And for those that don't know it, actually I got a link right here to it was the September-October issue of Model Railroad Hobbyist.
That was actually Lynn Westcott that came up with that technique in an old Model Railroader magazine.
Yeah,
but I think that Joe Fugate perfected it in the way that he gives measurements on what different colors to use for different situations. Like I got yellow, brown, and black. I might have another color, but I got those 3 colors, and through mixing them in different variations, you know, 1 part this, 2 parts that, you can come up with different colors for different situations.
Well, yeah. And that link to this right here, they go through that. They got a chart of all colors in that issue of Model Railroad Hobbyist.
Yeah.
There's a complete chart. I mean, it's basically all it is. You're mixing plaster with a pigment. You're wetting your surface, or you're dampening your surface, and then you're sifting a light coat, and what it does, it sticks that, and the plaster hardens. But the point was that right there is created from just what we just saw.
I would just like to say what Murphy's Law has taught me over time. The Murphy's Law is that once you put down your plaster, it'll either separate from your foam, or it'll crack and then chip off. But if you add a little bit of white glue, I use Weld Bond on everything, but if you add a little bit of white glue, it'll super harden that plaster, and it'll also glue to the foam, which is important.
Have any of you guys used that Weld Bond? Ron has sworn by that for a while. I use Canopy glue. Is there any difference between the two?
I have no idea. I never used Weld Bond. That's like a Canadian thing or something.
Is it? I want to give it a try.
The cost. Canopy glue comes in this little thing about this big, which is typical of model railroad sizes, and it's probably about $6 for, I don't know, 1 ounce jug.
Right.
And then you get a Weld Bond. It's about like from this the Pacer's this big. Weld Bond glue's about this big. It's $9. And
are you wearing pajamas?
No.
A kilt? No.
Hey Ron, does it dry clear like Canopy does?
Absolutely clear, but the one thing that it does that has the same as the Pacer glue is that it's not waterproof, but water resistant in a major way, and that's a big problem for glues. Is that many of them, if you put a warm hot rag, they'll release, and this is something that I learned from building my large-scale WX tower up here in the corner. I put that outside for a while, and the glue all fell off of it.
Oh, man.
You only learn tricks by doing it wrong the first way. So that's what Weld Bond does for me. And I'd like to find an alternative in the States that's the same type of glue that is cost effective, because Pacer glue, like, I'd have to buy it a case at a time at 1 ounce bottles. It's so ridiculous to think that I would use Pacer glue for anything other than window coverings.
I got a suggestion that you might want to try.
Go for it.
I've been using promoting, I guess the word is, this acrylic concrete fortifier. it's an acrylic resin that's in the who makes it? Quikrete makes it, and it's an additive for concrete. It says it increases the resist or decreases the permeability, some other stuff. All right, which is great, I guess. I'm not worried about that. I use it in preference to white glue and water. It smells very lightly smell to it, and what little smell it has smells like future floor wax. And there's people that use future floor wax to do the same thing to set windows. The military modelers have used it for years. And I'm just wondering, since it dries clear and is a stronger stuff than the future floor wax, if that might work for that purpose, for fixing windows. Because it's like looks like milk when you're using it.
I have often said model railroading should be a course in school. And if I had my way, model railroad photography would be one of those skills taught in that class. Thankfully, my friend Bob Boudreau has covered all this stuff for you on his website. Bob's website covers all aspects of photography, from point-and-shoot cameras to DSLRs. Bob's photography has been part of many contests in the model railroad press, and Bob's contest-winning tricks can be found on this website, so check it out. Our next diorama build consists of a project I started probably about 5 or 6 years ago at the Imagine That Laser Arts shops. This factory building was in the design process, and I was able to get the seconds parts that really didn't make the grade. So I'm using a piece of tape to make a boundary of where I don't want any scenery, because I'm going to want to put a cement embutment there, or footer, for the building to sit on nicely. So I'm just going to do the scenery so that it's all nice around the building, and when I do the embutment, or the footing, that's totally not what it is. When I do the footing, it's going to be perfect and clean, is just the way I want it. So I'm using Martin Welberg's scenery products here, and these products, they come on a kind of tarp material, and they're really easy to cut. Like, it's a real thin tarp material, like you could rip them. But I'm using my razor blade. I'm just going to mark a line first with my paint pen. Like, you don't want to squeeze these or crush them, pushing them down on this piece of cardboard. You wouldn't want to press on it hard, otherwise you'll crush the features of the mat itself. But cutting it up is important, to get the realism, like the mosaic of scenery. You have to cut these things up and mix and match them. So I'm cutting these up in strips just to get a feel of the products. I'm going to run them along the engine terminal building on the diorama. So using the razor blade, I never cut down. I cut kind of by holding the end of the mat and pulling into it, getting that cut to not press down on the features of the grass itself, and just tearing it apart. I feel how substantial, and actually not much stuff fell off of the mat itself. It's like it's pretty secure, so this isn't as fragile a product as you might think, as you can tell because the way I cut it and just handled it. So it's a nice product. So I want to cut these these features out as bushes. So I'm cutting each color out so that I can keep each bush to have a uniform color. And as I cut these apart, you really get to see how these bushes really are like like this is the real deal. Like, I've never seen model railroad scenery products that look so good. Like, never, not personally. So as you can see, the grass, this is the longest grass product that Martin sent me, and it's the height of a man. However, the sheet that I just show behind it is the medium sheet, and it's the general length that you would see a field. And these bushes that I have in my hand are these are more bushes, and what's on the map is kind of like grass foliage field kind of stuff. So getting both these products, it's really easy to get them to work together. See how thick this is in respect to the HO scale truck. So these are kind of long. So when I put this stuff in the diorama, I want to separate these big pieces so that they look like they're bushes. So now that I have the dirt down and it's been glued overnight, I pull the tape away so that I can visually see where the building's going to go. That way I can glue down the bushes without putting them in a spot where the building's going to really crush them over time. I'm sure there's going to be a little bit of damage, but if I make it this way, then at least I know where the building's going to sit. Yeah. So later on in the build, I start putting the glue directly underneath the pieces of bush, because I'm just kind of guessing the size right here, and you put them on the bottom. In hindsight, putting glue on the bottom of the bushes themselves is smarter. Now, you might look in between these bushes and think to yourself, well, there's a lot of space that's left open there. What are you going to do? Well, Martin has the other scenery products that you've seen around. The tough grasses that are put on the sheets. I'm going to put those in between later on, as well as adding some flock and turf from Scenic Express. Speaking of Scenic Express type companies, Martin Welberg is looking for a distributor in North America for his products. So I hope as you watch me use these products in my diorama build here, maybe you know someone who will make it easier for us to buy these kinds of products in North America. As Martin's from Holland, and I got these shipped to me from across the pond. So, moving on, put down a little bit of flock and turf there to get some texture on the ground. I don't want to just have bushes. I want to frame the driveway with the color of green. And, all it takes is a simple, just a little bit. I don't want to cover the ground completely. And, all I'm gluing it down with is watered down glue 50-50 with a couple of drops of dish soap. The dish soap is important because the glue doesn't sit on top. It finds a way to go under, like it sinks in. I like to say it sits down with a little bit of dish soap. So don't forget the dish soap. So as you can see, I learned. And put the glue on the bottom of the patch and just put a piece of bush down. So I'm going to end today's session there. As you can see in these photos, Martin's products really make this scene pop, and I'm really happy with it. And in future episodes, we're going to show how I start mix and matching Martin's products up to really get the front half of this engine terminal looking top notch. I'm really happy with it so far. So that's it for this week. Maybe stop by our Facebook group and show us what you've been building. Want to have your photographs shown in one of our web shows? We would be happy to share a photo credited to you on the next show. We were looking for photographs of models, railroads, and old buildings. Feel free to contact us via Facebook or Google+.
Okay, what's this I hear about at a contest? Sure hope we get this out on time.
So, we have Terrance on the call, and Steve has a little bit of a relationship with Terry through Terry's Launchpad for Model Railroad. I don't have it written down here.
Launchpad for Model Railroading website.
I was good. I had it.
You got it.
Now, there's a bunch of things I want to talk to Terry about. And I think the one thing I want to get out of the way first is you're running a contest with Tom Barbalet over on Model Rail Radio. And I kind of want to give everybody who is interested in getting into that contest to kind of see all the 3D SketchUp stuff we're doing over here. Do you have anything to talk about SketchUp and showing people maybe your SketchUp? Have you tried screen sharing yet?
Well, I haven't tried screen sharing, but let me give everyone some background.
Okay.
In conjunction with, in celebration, actually, the 100th show of Model Rail Radio, I threw out a 3D printed critter challenge. So here are the particulars. It's O-scale. The 3D printed critter is a body that goes on to either the old Atlas or old AHM Plymouth switcher mechanisms. Now, these are models from the 70s that are no longer produced, and as the professor said, they are unloved because they were not very good models. But so you can get them on eBay at very reasonable prices. Oh, so cool. The intent was, in addition to introducing people to 3D printing, was to let people dabble in O-scale. And so you can do it in whatever your favorite version of O-scale is. US 148th, 145th, 143, 7 millimeter, whatever O-scale turns you on. And you can check the Model Rail Radio website for the particulars.
I got a link. If you look at my screen, I got it on the.
Okay. Thanks, Ed.
I was just typing to you, Ed. Can you share photos of these?
And I've also shared the link on the chat.
Okay.
2 thumbs up. Go ahead, Terry.
So the idea is design a critter body that would cost $100 or less to print at Shapeways or the printer of your choice. I'm not particularly enamored of Shapeways, but there's a $100 limit, and the first winner or 2, and possibly 3 if we have enough entries, will have their critter body printed for them. That's the prize, is along with fame and fortune. Okay, so the end of the contest is now July 1st, and an easy way to get into this is by using SketchUp. First, SketchUp is free. Secondly, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of video tutorials out there on the web. And the video tutorial is very important because talking through something like SketchUp is not particularly effective. You have to see it demonstrated.
Yeah.
So that's a very easy way to get into it. And a critter body, when you think of it, is just a box with various shapes and holes cut out of it. So it should be very, very easy to at least take a crack at designing something like this. And I think I put some more rules out there that help you to design a successful body. For instance, keep your walls at about 2 millimeters, no more, and certainly not too much less. That will give you sufficient structural strength and keep you away from the printable minimums. And we have some other points like that. So for people who haven't tried SketchUp, if you would think of building with, or drawing with an Etch-a-Sketch or building something out of Play-Doh, that's somewhat akin to the way SketchUp works. With SketchUp, you form a basic shape, a square, a rectangle, a circle, and then you extrude that. You literally pull it out with your mouse into a 3D form that you want. And you can do things like hollowing out by pushing in on surfaces that will hollow them out. And there are a number of tools available in SketchUp to make all this easy. Ed, can you share your screen while I'm talking? Because it looks like you have interesting stuff going on your screen.
Yeah, that's the one I was working on for your thing.
So, Ed, why don't you talk to this, and then I'll just chime in as necessary.
Well, I got a question before. Ed demonstrated before that we could make a model from a photograph or get dimensions from a photograph, or proportions, more aptly described, proportions. Could a person start with a photograph angled straight on and use that as a guide to start development?
Yes.
Go ahead.
You can import. We were using Match Photo on that building.
Mm-hmm.
But you can import what's called, you can import, just use it as an image in SketchUp.
Mm.
Then you switch from perspective to a proportional view, so you have no perspective on the thing. And it basically you're drawing on top of it, using it as a guide.
Mm.
So yes, the answer is. I can show that, but maybe not this time if you don't want to do that. But yes, that can be done.
And just to finish that off, you don't really need to model the whole thing. You're just modeling the steps on up to the cab without the truck.
Right. And that's the key thing. It's just a box, a hollow box with windows punched in. And it's, I think, a very, very easy start. I'll give you an example of how easy. Actually, the genesis of this was last fall. I was scheduled to give a clinic on 3D printing at the O-Scale National in Indianapolis. And I hit on the idea of making critter bodies to go on top of these mechanisms, of which I had like a couple dozen sitting around. Mm-hmm. So I, of course, procrastinated and drew up the bodies over a period of a day or two in a great rush. And when I uploaded them to Shapeways, I realized there was no way they were going to make it to my house for me to pack them up and take them to Indianapolis. So I had the bodies shipped sight unseen right to one of my friends there in Indianapolis. And when I got to Indianapolis, I actually fitted them over the mechanisms, and they snapped right into place.
No way.
So this is not rocket science, and I'm really urging people to give this a shot. Get over the concern about something unknown. I mean, this is about as simple as it gets in 3D design. And I really, take a shot at it. It's going to cost you nothing. Do your design, upload it to Shapeways, check it out. If it meets all their parameters so that it's printable and it's less than $100, submit the design to us, okay? And you may have a shot at having something on your mantelpiece. Now, I have some more of these mechanisms around, and for the life of me, I cannot find them in the hobby shop in my basement. So when I do find them, I will be providing a mechanism to all the winners, so you'll be able to join your body with the mechanism and proudly display it on your shelf. Or maybe you'll even think of a little bit of O-scale track somewhere, which will eventually grow into a module, a layout, and forever will control your destiny. So, that's probably all I need to say about that.
On the screen is in the white is on Terry. They provide a download of the mechanism, and that's what is in the white. I download that from the Model Rail Radio link. So that's what Terry's talking about. There's the mechanism in 3D, and you make a body to fit on top of it.
How easy is that? I was going to suggest you guys should do something like that. That's crazy. This is the open source community. This is the open source community.
Exactly. And open source, I've always been an advocate of open source in both my work and in my hobbies, and now with these, as you point out, these communication channels.
And I think, when you say to just try it, the things that are going to happen are not going to be criticism or people picking apart your work. You're going to get people who are very passionate about spreading this knowledge throughout the hobby to maybe somehow help you in some way or give you hints at where you're going wrong or where you need to look to fix things, So the benefits of getting involved in this are pretty big.
Oh yeah, and let's put it this way: we've gotten with the model community now where models are becoming ever more specific to a prototype, specific to a railroad, specific to a prototype. And I heard one wag complain that it'll stop when you have to put the stripes on the engineer's underwear. But eventually you're going to get to the point where if you're modeling some very obscure railroad or freelance narrow gauge, for instance, okay, it's unlikely you're ever going to see a prototype built for you. The volume is just not there. So 3D printing gives you a way to produce those prototypes that no one else is likely to produce. One of the first things I did in 3D printing was a B&O dwarf signal, which is a very distinctive, one railroad only type of dwarf signal, and no one had ever produced it to scale. There were grossly large ones done for the 3-rail community, but no one had done one to scale. And when I did the drawings, which I did from the actual General Railway signal drawings, and then had one printed at Shapeways, it even shocked me as to how small it was. So I can see why it wasn't done commercially. But that's the sort of thing where you can get something that's very, very unique to a particular railroad and very authentic, and reproduce it with 3D printing.
Yeah. This is kit bashing locomotives.
Point out, I got on the screen the little one I'm working on.
Yeah.
And here's what's cool. I mean, beyond the 3D printing is this. We're looking at it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I zoom in into the through the
roof,
into the inside, and by going around, you can actually move inside the. See, I'm inside the cab, so I'm actually looking inside the cab out. I mean, that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with the 3D print itself, but the actual program SketchUp that allows you to visualize. That's just neat.
I'm blown away by this stuff, and I haven't even jumped into SketchUp again to try it out, but I think I'm going to try an entry.
Yeah, please do. I mean, I think this can be a lot of fun. In fact, I have to keep myself away from the computer, otherwise I'd spend all my time doing 3D design. But on
200
occasion,
entries.
on occasion, the urge overcomes me, and I sit down for 3 days, bloodshot eyes, and just doing 3D designs. And I do 3D designs for other people and things that strike my fancy. So, for instance, this past week I was at a friend's house again in Indianapolis, and he asked me to do a Proto 48 coupler pocket. And so that's maybe done today or tomorrow. Draw up this coupler pocket, which he wants to more accurately match the opening and have the detail of an actual coupler pocket and strike plate. And that shouldn't be very difficult, and it should make a very, very nice model in 3D printing. So
how's the participation in the contest so far? Is there a lot of people in?
Actually,
is it reaching your expectations?
No, it's falling way short. So we actually extended the due date from May to July to give people a chance, and I really do need to encourage people. I was just really caught up in. I had an open house at my layout on the 25th of April, which was in celebration of my completing the main line, and I was working like mad to get that done. And since then, I've been working like mad to catch up on house, car, and yard work. So now I'm coming up for air, and I should be able to get some stuff out on 3D Printing Challenge to encourage people to participate.
Well, I'll be happy to do my part to help you get some more participants.
Is there a link, Terry, on there for where to send your files?
You can send them to Terry at Model Rail Radio, and I have received some. I did receive some entries before the May deadline, so it does get to me that way.
So that would be Terry at modelrailradio.com, correct?
That's right. That's correct. Thank you. Thank you, Hoffy. Yeah, Terry at modelrailradio.com goes through to my personal email, so that's how you can get them to me. And I think that's in the rules as well if you read them, Ed.
How many hours of work?
Okay.
How many hours of work do you think it would take to build a model of this?
If this isn't your first exposure to SketchUp, you can do this in 3 hours, maybe 4. I mean, just to do a basic body. Yeah. You know, now how much stuff you're going to put on that? Like if you saw Ed's model, he has the headlights formed. I formed somewhat simpler modern headlights on my critter bodies. I formed the doors and the windows, and then left it at that because things like grab irons and rivet strips and all that, while it can be done in 3D printing, part of my idea on doing my bodies was to leave them somewhat amorphous so that they could be riveted or welded. In fact, the one overall body that I did could be diesel, could be electric, could be trolley. It's that generic. And I've had requests to print that body for people who have put pantographs on top of it. So it depends on where you want to go. Do you want a specific look? Do you want a generic look? The more generic you make it, the quicker it'll be.
I think I just had a crazy idea. You know, you could get a whole bunch of submissions from people who build together in a hangout.
You could do that. I'm somewhat surprised that I didn't have more entries from Europe, because 4-wheel and 6-wheel critters are very common prototypes in Europe. Very common. In fact, if you search for pictures on Google, most of them are going to be European prototype. And even if you're not European, there's plenty of inspiration there to see how different types of critters are put together.
Well, I think that if we can encourage a couple of hangouts talking about this subject and sharing this the slug model you've got to build around, there should be no reason why people wouldn't feel comfortable in participating.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what my contribution will be.
Do that. There's also, I can contribute with how to hollow these out using a Mesh Lab. There's a way to use Mesh Lab that works perfectly.
Oh, wow. So I think we just fixed a little bit of exposure with this. You know, get people over that bridge, you know, like, because I know what that feels like, because I remember when SketchUp first came out, and I've used it probably about 4 times after that, and there's just at a certain point where my eyes glaze over and I'm like, I'm not really building anything here, and I'll walk away, you know. So being able to not have your hand held, but watch somebody like Ed, or even if you had the time or interest to do something like this, wow, even if it was for a model rail radio crowd who, the people who are part of the show and don't have the confidence to be able to do this, I think that would be a great contribution to model rail radio in this contest.
This show is fan-funded by people just like you. If you go to patreon.com/Ron Pare, P-A-R-E, you could be among the 6 awesome people who are funding the show at this time. Funding the show can be as low as $1 a month. $1. $1.